So it's 3 weeks ago I published my Battleweaver guide on YouTube, and suddenly we see more and more Battleweavers playing everywhere. You see them in dungeons and in raids, just everywhere. And I understand why. It's just one of the most fun classes that you can play in PvE. If you've tried it, you know what I mean. And it's for sure one of the top 3 DPSs that we have right now in PvE. And in the last 3 weeks, I just kept spamming this class in high trials, in raids, in just simply every PvE content. And I can tell you now I'm dealing way more damage than I was just dealing 3 weeks ago. And this has mostly nothing to do with my gear. It's just I understand way better how the class actually works. And in this video, I want to share a little bit my findings so you can also bring your Battle Reaver gameplay to the next level. And trust me, those tips that I will give you will make a huge difference in your damage. And by the way, if you have still questions after this video, or you just want to see a little bit more of this class live in action, then feel free to join me on Twitch, where I'm currently streaming almost every day. Okay, so let's start with the tips. The first thing that I had to realize is that we need to spam our quickfire more efficiently and more consistently. Okay, that sounds super stupid, but hear me out on that. So if we use high focus and selfless diffusion, right, we have like a crazy short cooldown on our quickfire. You can see that here, right? The cooldown is just crazy short. It's like always like 1 second cooldown, that's it. That's even without a deadly marker, right? A deadly marker would even slightly lower the cooldown. Not a lot, but a little bit. So if you use quickfire, just always when it comes up on cooldown and you just do it reactively, so you see it's back on cooldown, you use it. You see that it's back on cooldown, you use it. You will have, of course, an input lag, but you will have also a brain lag till you realize that there's something, and you do have to do certain mechanics and whatsoever. So there will be always quite a bit of a delay till you actually use that ability. So that will be often off cooldown. So the first thing you want to do is you want to get this quickfire ability on a button where you can spam it non-stop. And with non-stop, I mean non-stop. That means whatever you do, you just spam this ability. You're just running around doing a mechanic, you spam that ability, okay? This ability, you just always spam. Because it's just such a nice filler ability. Just look at this. We're using some abilities, it's whatever, right? And we're just spamming it. And whatever comes up, we are just spamming it. So we're not losing any damage on that. It's such a great filler ability. Especially if you have like a lot of cooldown speed, you have your deadly markers on your target, you have these both abilities always up all the time, you won't be able to do this reactionary. It's just not possible. You need to spam this non-stop. And the good thing about this, if you spam it non-stop, is quickfire will proc your Mother Nature's protest, which will weaken the target more often, which will with selfless diffusion reduce your cooldowns even more, which will not only mean you just deal more damage with quickfire, but you will also reduce your cooldowns even more, and you have no downtimes, right? It's all about having a high uptime, just spamming abilities. And that's why it's just so important that you have quickfire on a keyboard that you can actually spam. So before, for example, I had that on R, but for me that was not really good because I wasn't able to run around and spam, and it's like really annoying if I want to use R and then I want to use E, then I was 4, 3, 2, right? It's just a bad button to spam and then just play keyboard with all the other abilities. For me, I have it on the mouse. That's just really nice. I can just spam that all the time. I can run around, I can do my things, right? I can use all my other abilities. It really doesn't matter. And I just spam this one. I just spam it and spam it and spam it. And I can guarantee you, if you do that, your damage will just skyrocket. It's crazy the difference. Because first of all, you have no downtime anymore, and secondly, you just reduce your cooldowns like crazy. This is just the first thing that I think is just a must-have if you want to be a good Battle Reaver. It's of course requires a high APM, right? If you want to have a chill class, Invocator is for sure better here, and it's for sure easier to play. Of course, you don't have to do that, but it will just heavily increase your damage. Second thing I want to talk about are the mana costs. Of course, if you exactly play it like this, you will see also that you will drain much more mana, right? You spam more abilities, you will drain heavily your mana. And especially if you get to the late game and you get like a lot of cooldown speed and you get a lot of attack speed, you just have lower cooldowns, you spam your abilities even faster, and that will just heavily drain your mana. This is just something you have to deal with if you play this class. So what can you do against that? You can of course build mana rigging and build mana cost efficiency. So let's talk first about mana rigging. So I have here right now around 2k-ish mana regen. So of course it's a little bit influenced right now because we are here in a city, so you get some additional mana regen, but outside of the city I have around 2k-ish mana regen. So to get so much mana regen, you really need to have mana regen on everything, right? So you have it in the runes, you have it on all your trait resonance effects, just everywhere. But it's just a stat that you should really focus on. But a really cool thing about this class is that you get a lot of additional mana regen if your max mana is below 30%. So we have first of all from the staff, the passive mana spring, where we get 16% additional mana regen when we are below 30% max mana. And then we get also additionally from the crossbow for endless volley 260 additional mana regen, which is insane. In my case, this gives me over 3.3k mana regen, which is completely insane. So the second thing is of course mana cost efficiency. So you reduce the mana cost from your abilities by a percentage value. Of course it has again diminishing returns, but nevertheless it's really good. Just a side note, Mother Nature Protest uses 24 mana on every flame arrow that you're doing, and you can't reduce that. Even with mana cost efficiency, it doesn't matter. But nevertheless, having a lot of mana cost efficiency is just super important. That's why I also always would suggest you play with a cloak, because just getting here the additional mana cost efficiency is just something you will need. You can also see that I'm currently using the Unrelenting crossbow, which gives me also 12% additional mana cost efficiency. So we're getting a lot of mana cost efficiency from a lot of different sources. So it gives us a total of 71% mana cost efficiency. And then we lose here, of course, also a lot of mana cost efficiency simply because Forbidden Sanctuary. But nevertheless, we got to 37% mana cost efficiency, which is really good. And I can tell you right now, this feels for me like a sweet spot. And now you might say, I don't need that, I just spam mana exchange all the time, non-stop, and then my mana is always enough, right? Maybe I get low, but then I have the additional mana regen and stuff, and it's fine, right? As long as I spam that non-stop. And yes, you can do that. You can just spam that all the time, and then you need way less mana regen and way less mana cost efficiency. It's if you spam that from the beginning on, non-stop, then for most encounters, you don't need so much mana regen and so much mana cost efficiency. But what if I tell you that you maximize your damage and your defenses if you have between 10 and 30% mana all the time? So you want to have your max mana below 30% but above 10%. Why? It's super easy. First of all, we want to have it above 10% because we never want Mother Nature Protest to run out, right? Because this will of course lower our damage. But additionally, we always want to have these passives, Mana Spring and also Endless Volley, be active. So we maximize our mana regen. If we are below 30% max mana, we are actually getting something around 3.3k mana regen, which is insane. And why this is so important is because of Manaball Erruption. So what Manaball Erruption is doing, on each projectile we're shooting from Fireball Barrage or Detonator Bombardment, we have a chance to trigger a bonus damage effect on each projectile. That means Fireball Barrage has 20 projectiles, so we have 20 times the chance, and Detonator Bombardment has 10 projectiles, so we have 10 chances here to proc this additional bonus damage. Now the base chance of this ability is 5%, which is pretty low, but we increase that for each point of mana regen we have. So if we have around 3.5k mana regen, we have around a 90% chance of proccing that. So if we use, for example, Fireball Barrage, out of the 20 projectiles that we shoot on our target, 18 of those will probably trigger it. And for Detonator Bombardment, 9 out of the 10 will probably trigger it, which is insane. This will heavily boost our damage, and those two abilities will just have a really short cooldown for us because we just reduce our cooldown so heavily. So we spam that all the time and it just will heavily increase our damage. And we just have so much mana regen if we are below 30% max mana. So if you really want to min-max your damage, you really want to stay below 30% max mana all the time. And now we're coming back to mana regen and mana cost efficiency, right? So if you have almost no mana regen or mana cost efficiency, it's super hard to hold it between 10 and 30%. Because as soon as you're on this range and you use some abilities, boom, you're below 10%, and then your Mother Nature process is going off and everything just stumbles, right? So you need enough mana regen and you need enough mana cost efficiency, so it's actually easy to hold it there. So what are you doing then is you always bring it down to 15%, 20%, and then you always from time to time use mana exchange to pop it up again. So you need a nice balance here that fits for you. It's really depending on how many spams you spell, how good you are on the strategy that I just teach you before with spamming Quickfire. If you're really good on that, you will need more mana regen and more mana cost efficiency because it will drain your mana just so heavily. And this is also one of the reasons why I'm not playing the Akman crossbow right now. It's just for me not sustainable. And don't get me wrong, the additional attack speed we are getting here, the 12%, feel insane. You can't have enough attack speed on this class. It's so insane. You want to get as much attack speed as you can. But for me, it was just way to hold it in that 10 to 30% range. And we just lose way too much damage if we don't do that. So that's why I'm not currently playing with it. And to be honest, we are trading here the attack speed with the species damage boost. And species damage boost is just ridiculously broken. So it's probably anyways a lot better to go with the unrelenting one. But I can tell you, like, the additional attack speed feels good, but it's like right now not sustainable, or you need to see if it's sustainable for you. But just having more attack speed but not utilizing your skills really well is worse. Getting then the species damage boost on top will be much better, because those 64 species damage will be just like a 4 to 5% overall damage increase, which is just hard to beat. And then just one addition here on Manaball Erruption. What is really important is that you have your staff always as the main hand. Because how Manaball Erruption actually works, it takes these 150% base damage, it always takes it from your main hand. So you would assume it's a staff passive, so it would be using it also from the staff if it's in the secondary hand, but it's not. It would be using then the crossbow base damage. And as you can see, the crossbow base damage, we have right now 435, and for our staff we have 766. So of course, if we have the staff in our main hand, we will do way more damage with this passive. So really important, always have your staff in your main hand. I tested it quite a few times. Sometimes I had even the same damage when I had the crossbow in the main hand, but I think it's just a little bit buggy or whatsoever. Just to be safe, always go with the staff in the main hand. And if you will play it as I just explained to you at the beginning, with spamming Quickfire all the time, then you won't do any auto attacks anyways, right? There is no space to do any auto attacks. There's literally no time for that. We just use the max damage here from our staff to increase the damage of Manaball Erruption. Okay, let's come to the next thing. And for this is also important that we are actually always between 10 and 30% max mana, because this one is also influenced by our mana regen. So you might have noticed that we don't have any healing, any additional defensives or whatsoever in PvE, which is kinda annoying. But I found something that is actually really beneficial, especially in high trials or if you go into the nightmare raid. So if you feel like you're dying too fast, one thing that I'm currently using is I'm playing with Mana Shield. So Mana Shield just increases our defense by 20% of our mana regen plus 150. That means if we are below 30% max mana and we have like over 3k mana regen, we increase our defense by 700-800 more defense, right? If we go 700-800 defense, magic defense up, that will heavily reduce the damage you will get from all mechanics in dungeons, especially if you hold your max mana below 30%, because then you have all the mana regen, you get all the additional defense. It will just heavily reduce the damage from all mechanics in dungeons, which can be really helpful, especially in high trials. So something that is really good. Of course, what you are sacrificing here is power surge, but just to give you an idea, right? Right now we have a max damage of 782. Now we go into our mastery, we put that out, we go back in, we see 766. So 766 That's 16 max damage. So 16 max damage is maybe around 1.5% more damage. This is nothing, okay? This is literally nothing. It's so bad on this class. So this passive was always not really good. It's okay-ish on Invocators because they have so much max mana, but this is literally the only class that really benefits from this passive. For all other ones, that's kinda useless. So it's much better, especially in high trials, to increase your defense by 700-800 and get way less damage from all mechanics and actually surviving stuff than getting here 1-2% more damage. By the way, ignore the mastery page here right now. It's not what I'm actually using. I tried a lot of different things out. The updated mastery page you will always find under Questlog Links in the video description. And the last thing I want to talk about is something that a viewer told me on Twitch. So you can see Flame Arrow has right now a 31% chance to apply our weaken, right? The burning flame arrow. Now we can of course increase the chance if we build weaken chance. And since bosses don't have any weaken resistance, it's crazy how fast you can increase here your chance. So building a lot of weaken chance is actually super beneficial to proc Mother Nature protest more often, right? So that you have more flame arrows. But remember, of course, this will also drain more mana. Okay, so this is something you just need to keep in mind. So the more weaken chance you have, the more arrows will fly to the target, but this will of course also drain more mana. But since this was just a really good tip, I never thought about that. What I just do now, you go into the runes and on the yellow runes, you just go for weaken chance. So for both of your rings, just go for weaken chance here. It just gives you a little bit weaken chance on top, which will, just increase the chance of you proccing Mother Nature protest on each hit you are doing. And yeah, that's it guys. That's all the new stuff that I learned in the last week. I hope you enjoyed the build. But yeah, I'm for sure not perfect and I don't know everything. So if you have still something that you know about the class and you want to share that, please feel free to share that in the comments so we all can get better as a Battle Reaver. But I can guarantee you this is just one of the best classes that you can play right now in PvE if you play it correctly. Of course, it has some gear requirements, especially if you want to play all the time between this 10 to 30% max mana, but it's just super fun. But yeah, thanks for watching guys. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe and see ya in the next one.